Imagine this. You're 18 years old. It's pitch black except for the terrifying, sporadic glare of star shells bursting overhead, turning night into a ghastly, flickering day. The air is thick with the smell of damp earth, stagnant water, and something metallic, something you try not to name. This isn't a movie. This was the reality for millions of young men a little over a century ago. Welcome to the Trench Vigil. My great-grandfather was one of them. He never spoke much about his time in the Great War, but the few stories he did tell were etched with a quiet intensity. He described the waiting. That's what he remembered most. Not the chaos of an attack, but the endless, agonizing hours of waiting for one. The waiting was a unique kind of fear, a slow-burning anxiety that gnawed at your soul. Life in the trenches was a paradox. It was crushingly monotonous, yet fraught with constant, unpredictable danger. Your world shrank to a few hundred yards of muddy, zigzagging ditch. Your daily routine was a grim cycle: stand to at dawn, weapon ready, staring into the misty no-man's land, expecting the silhouette of an enemy soldier to emerge at any moment. Then, if the attack didn't come, came the chores: repairing the trench walls, bailing out the ever-present water, trying to keep your rifle clean in a world made of mud. The fear wasn't always a dramatic, heart-pounding terror. More often, it was a low, constant hum in the background of your existence. It was the fear of the unknown. Was that sound rat scurrying in the dark, or was it an enemy patrol crawling through the wire? Was that cough from the next bay over just a cold, or was it the first sign of a gas attack? Every shadow, every sound, every flicker of light held a potential threat. He told me about shell shock, what we now understand as PTSD. He saw men, brave men, simply break under the relentless pressure. The constant shelling, the lack of sleep, the horrific sights. It was more than the human mind was built to endure. He said the bravest thing you could do wasn't charging over the top, but just getting through another night, holding onto your sanity while the world tore itself apart around you. But in the midst of this fear, there was also a powerful sense of camaraderie. The men in your platoon weren't just soldiers, they were your brothers. You shared your last cigarette, your meager rations, your darkest fears. You relied on the man next to you for your very survival. A shared joke, a letter from home read aloud, a quiet nod of understanding. These small moments of human connection were lifelines in a sea of despair. Anticipation was a double-edged sword. On one hand, you dreaded the shrill blast of the whistle that signaled an attack. You knew what it meant: a mad scramble up a wooden ladder into a hellscape of machine gun fire and tangled barbed wire. The odds were not in your favor. The feeling in the pit of your stomach was indescribable: a cold, heavy dread mixed with a surge of adrenaline. But on the other hand, the monotony was so soul-crushing that sometimes action felt like a release. Anything was better than the waiting. This is a difficult thing to comprehend. The idea that running toward almost certain death could feel like a relief. It speaks volumes about the psychological torment of trench life. You anticipated the end of the waiting, even if that end was violent. Survival was a game of chance, a lottery. It wasn't always about being the strongest or the bravest. Sometimes it was about pure, dumb luck. Standing in one spot instead of 2 feet to the left, where a sniper's bullet just hit. Being sent to the rear for supplies just as your section of the trench took a direct hit from an artillery shell. My great-grandfather survived. He carried the physical and invisible scars for the rest of his life. He survived by learning to live with the fear, not by conquering it. He survived by focusing on the small things: cleaning his rifle, writing a letter, making it to the next meal. He learned to exist in a state of heightened awareness, to trust his instincts and the men around him. The silence could be just as terrifying as the noise. A sudden quiet after hours of shelling wasn't peaceful, it was unnerving. It usually meant the enemy was preparing for an infantry assault. In those silent moments, anticipation reached its peak. You'd hold your breath, straining your ears, your knuckles white as you gripped your rifle. The whole world seemed to be holding its breath with you, waiting for the inevitable eruption of violence. Let's talk about the nights. The nights were the worst. The darkness wasn't a comfort, it was a canvas for your imagination to paint its most terrifying pictures. Every rustle of the wind through the barbed wire sounded like an enemy crawling towards you. Patrols would venture out into no man's land, and the tension of waiting for their safe return was immense. You'd see the flash of a grenade, hear a muffled shout, and be left to wonder about their fate until dawn. These weren't superheroes. They were ordinary people, farmers, clerks, teachers, teenagers thrust into an extraordinary and horrific situation. They were terrified, they were homesick, they were often cold and hungry. But they endured. They found a strength they never knew they had. The story of the trench vigil is not just a story of fear and death. It's a profound testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It's about finding hope in a hopeless place. It's about the unbreakable bonds forged in the crucible of shared hardship. It's about the simple, desperate, and powerful will to survive, to see one more sunrise, to get through one more night. When we remember the Great War, it's crucial to look beyond the grand strategies and the casualty numbers. We must remember the individual, the human being, standing his post in the dark, wrestling with fear and anticipation, just trying to survive the night. Their experience reminds us that mental health is a battlefront of its own. The burdens they carried didn't vanish when the guns fell silent. If you or someone you know is struggling with the weight of your own experiences, please know that seeking help is a sign of incredible strength. There are people who want to listen and support you. You are not alone. Thank you for joining me in this vigil, for taking the time to remember and understand this small piece of a monumental human experience. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more journeys into the pages of history. Until next time, stay curious and remember those who came before us.